And let's see how many we've got on just now. Oh, we've got 20 on, so I think we just kick it off. I'll just kick off before I hand over to Brett, because Brett will pretty much take us the whole way through this session. Just to let you know a little bit about Brett. So he's a keen surfer, and he's a retired swimmer and retired triathlete. So he pretty much knows the sports that you guys are doing. And he's very heavily involved with the Central Coast Academy of Sport. He regularly works at state and at national swimming teams and tours when we can tour with Australian teams and the Paralympic teams as well. He's got a really loaded CV. You know what that is? A resume. So his resume is really thick. With higher education qualifications, such as he's got a degree in exercise and sports science, a Master of Physiotherapy, and a Master of Sports Physiotherapy. And he's a director of Coast Sport, and you've all heard of Coast Sport, no doubt. And Coast Sport is a practice that's down at Tuggerah that not only offers physio, and Brett might go into that, but we went into that as well last night at the orientation, all of the other services that they offer. And Coast Sport is fully invested in helping our up-and-coming athletes, and we're very privileged to have Coast Sport work with our athletes. So without further ado, I'll just hand over to you, Brett, and if there's anything that you need, just let me know. I'll be here.
Awesome. Thank you.
No worries. I'll just mute now.
Yep. So yeah, guys, just a little bit of housekeeping on this Zoom today. We'll keep everybody on mute unless I kind of grant you permission to unmute yourself to ask a question or make a comment. Otherwise, things just get a little bit out of control. If you want to make other comments or ask other questions, just pop them in the chat box. And I've got the chat box up in front of me so I can see them coming up there. And if there's questions that are important or that everybody's asking, we can address them as we go, and we'll unmute people as we need to. As Robin said, I do a lot of work with the national level swim teams, and the presentation that we're going to go through today is actually a presentation that we gave to the national level coaches and the national level swimmers just a week ago. So after I gave this presentation to the national team, I reached out to Robin, and I thought it might be useful for you guys to get the same information that the national level swimmers are getting, so that you guys can be, holding yourselves to the same standards and doing the same practices that the top level swimmers are doing, because after all, that's what we all want to achieve. So I guess the title of the presentation is Keeping Your Swimming Body Ready in ISO. And I know that the restrictions are starting to lift a little bit, but I don't think anybody that I know of is able to access a pool yet. So can everybody just quickly comment in the chat box if you are swimming in a pool at the moment, or if you are not? Maybe if you're swimming in a pool, give me a comment in the chat box right now. Next week, Casey's getting in. Somebody told me that Gosford pool has a few people swimming in it. Open water only for Robin. And home pools for some people. Yep, Gosford, I think, is letting some people in. Yeah, cool. I spoke to the coach from Homebush earlier today, and even they're not allowed back in the pool yet. The top squad in our state is not allowed back in the pool yet. So Toowoon Bay, yep. So a lot of people doing open water swimming, which we'll talk about too, just at the beach. Yeah, cool. So it sounds like most people have been able to stay in contact with the water, which is really important. I think obviously there's some differences. One of the main ones being the temperature at the moment. It's starting to get a little bit cold, isn't it, in the open water? So that's going to become a little bit more challenging as time goes on. So the other thing today is we're all getting a little bit lonely, you know, in isolation. You don't get to see your squad mates as much. So being able to engage with everyone is really nice as well. And this might actually be the first time that everybody's seeing each other's faces in this Academy of Sport swimming group. So if it is the first time we're all seeing each other's faces, have a scroll through the videos that you can see so that you can see the people that you're in the group with this year and get to know each other a little bit through the comments and the questions that we have today. And it's also a chance just to make sure everyone's going okay and give ourselves a little bit of a hug, make sure everyone's feeling all right. So can everybody try and give themselves a bit of a hug like this? See if you're flexible enough to get your fingers to touch each other behind your shoulders. If anyone thinks they can do that, give me a comment in the chat box if you think you can do it, and we'll get you to demonstrate in front of everyone. Hell no, says Casey. Not even close. Does everyone know which swimmer that is? Says it on the cap. The king of flexibility, Michael Phelps himself. So what this is all about with keeping your body swimming ready is really minimizing, I guess, the losses. So everybody would have been fit and strong before coronavirus came about and we had to all stop our training. So during this time, a lot of people will have lost some flexibility and some strength, and we just want to lose less than everybody else and all of our competitors. So we want to improve our transition back to normal training. So if you're on a trajectory like the blue line where your speed and your fitness was improving before the coronavirus hit, what we want is for you to drop less than your competitors so that you can bounce back more quickly. And that's really hard in swimming because there's lots of different physical qualities that you need to have as a swimmer. So right now, can everybody throw something in the chat box? Give me one physical ability that a swimmer needs. It might be strength, for example, and I won't give away any others other than strength, but what can you put in the chat box that you know swimmers need to have? Yep, flexibility, mindset. What else? Flexibility is a popular one already. Very important. Core strength, definitely. What else? Goals, for sure. And I think the Academy is running some good psychology and goal setting sessions, good determination. What are the physical capacities? So focus on the physical reaction time, aerobic fitness, exactly. Anything else? Stamina and cardio fitness, perfect. So you can see this awesome image of Kate Campbell here. She looks like she has giant arms and hands. And it's a really good example, I think, of a lot of the physical capacities here all kind of summarized into one body image there. She's got flexibility, strength. You've got to be muscular. You have some endurance, power, coordination. Swimmers always get told that they're not very well coordinated. Neuromuscular control, which means you've got to be able to control your body and control your technique. You've got to have balance, proprioception, physical resilience, which means when things get tough, you can keep going. So all of those qualities are things that we need to work on while we don't have access to a pool. So give me a shout out in the chat box if you know your flexibility isn't very good. Just say I. I. Few eyes. Good. So give me a shout out in the chat box if you know your strength isn't very good, and that's probably a focus for you to work on while you don't have access to a pool. Yeah. Good. So we'll talk about strength a little bit later too. The other thing we want to avoid, guys, is when training goes back, we don't want to spike after doing nothing. So during the time at the moment, we're in the yellow columns at the moment where we're not doing as much. Even if you're trying to do some exercise, it probably isn't matching up to when you normally have your full swim load, which is normally like 5 to 7 sessions a week. So we want to avoid having this big jump in training when we go back to swimming. And we can do that by trying to do as much as possible during this time, as well as being really careful when we go back to training. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. And the big problem that swimmers have is in their shoulders, of course, and it's normally in the tendons in their shoulders. So if you've had a shoulder pain before, can you put in the chat box shoulder right now? Just type shoulder for me so I know how many people on the line have had shoulder problems before. It's the most common problem across swimmers. They say up to 90% of swimmers will get some shoulder pain at some point in their career. So I'm already seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people have had shoulder problems already. So that's getting close to half the group there. And what we see really is that you guys do about 1 million strokes a year. So if we multiply out your stroke count on a 50-meter lap by how many laps you do, by how many sessions a year, generally you're turning your shoulders over about 1 million times. So your shoulders need to have really good physical capacity. They have to be very fit and very strong and very flexible to be able to handle 1 million strokes a year. So what's important is that you continue to keep the shoulder health up. So what we want you to do while you're not going to a pool is keep doing some kind of shoulder exercise most days of the week, all right? So that your shoulders are used to exercising all the time like they are when you're training. And what you're trying to do is build the endurance of your shoulders and build the strength and their speed over time. And you can see this is one of our Olympians in the photo here, Katoku Nagwadi. She's a 200 IM swimmer, and this is her doing some of her band shoulder exercises before she gets in for a training session before the Rio Olympics. What we try to do with the bands, with the elastic bands that you can see this swimmer here doing, is build the number of repetitions you can do. So how many repetitions or how many seconds or minutes you can do until the muscle burns out. So one thing I tell swimmers to do is always count how many movements you can do until the burn comes into your shoulders, and try to improve that number from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50. So it's about building up the repetitions. The other thing you can do, of course, is change the color of the band and go from easy to hard. Now, the trouble with this is that different brands of bands have different color loadings. So the bands that I have here at the physio clinic, yellow is the easiest and black is the hardest. And in between that, it goes red, green, and blue. And different brands will have different systems. So you just need to make sure you know the brand that you're working with. You can also increase the difficulty of your shoulder exercises or change them from double arm to single arm. And I'll show you some examples in just a second. And you can also reduce the rest intervals. Just like if you were doing a set of 10 50s, if you reduced the rest interval between the 50s from 15 seconds to 5 seconds, you would make that set much harder. So on this slide here, you can see lots of different ways to make your shoulders fitter and stronger while you're not going to a pool. And I've got one of our staff here demonstrating some shoulder exercises in a video, which I'll get Robin to put on TMAP so that you guys can have a go at all of these exercises. Now, all of these are very standard swimming exercises. We do pulls, pushes, external rotations, internal rotations with the shoulder down by our side. We do chicken wings. Some of you might not have tried that one. And chicken wings forward. We do overhead shoulder press to streamline, really important. Band pull aparts with straight arms. Flies or Ys. We call this one Ts, and we call this one Ys. We do lateral raises with a band. We do external rotation with our arm out to the side and pressing overhead, single arm. We do internal rotation with our arm out to the side, overhead band pull aparts. And then with some little hand weights, we can do similar movements, overhead press, lateral raises, bent over flies or bent over Ts. Some people call them reverse flies. These are Ys, so we're making the letter Y shape. We're doing prone flies with little hand weights. They're just 1 kilo weights that Maddie's holding onto there. Internal rotation with a hand weight. This is one of my favorites, is overhead catch with a ball. This really helps you to get your catch position working. So I know that video was really fast, but we don't all want to sit here for 5 minutes watching it. I'll get Robin to send that video out and you can watch it back in slow motion. And I would really encourage you guys to try all of those movements. There's no reason why you can't try all of them with some elastic bands. And as I said, the idea is to build up the number of repetitions that you can do over time. If you do have a spare set of hand paddles, type in the chat box if you've got a spare set of hand paddles that you don't use anymore. Just comment paddles for me, just so I know. I think a really cool idea is to tie your exercise bands to the paddles so that you can still use that flat hand catch position that you use when you're in the water. And it really helps you to engage the same muscles that you use when you swim. And to not use a grip like this on the band. It's much better to use an open grip on a hand paddle, and that will actually change the way that you use your muscles when you do those exercises. So some of you might already have some bands that have paddles on them, but if you've just got an old set of paddles, it's really easy to tie your exercise bands onto them. The other popular thing is tethered swimming. Now, can everyone comment tethered swimming if you've had a try of this? So in the backyard pool, tying yourself to the end of the pool. Robin's doing tethered swimming. I think I've seen some videos of on Robin's Facebook doing tethered swimming. Jono's doing tethered. Rihanna's doing tethered. Good. A couple of people have tried. Good. So this is a really good I guess, alternative to open water swimming. The main thing to remember with this is that there is a higher load on your shoulders when you do tethered swimming, and it is much more fatiguing for your shoulders. So you do have to be a little bit careful with not overloading your shoulders when you do this. So if you are doing tethered swimming, I definitely suggest you contact your coach and you make sure that you have the training set or the prescription correct for the tethered swimming that you want to do. It's often much shorter intervals than what you would normally do in a pool, okay? And sometimes it's based on stroke count. So it's a really great alternative, but just be aware, sometimes people do flare their shoulders up from doing tethered swimming. So you just need to make sure you get the level right. The other thing that we've been doing on the national team is encouraging our swimmers to actually do tethered board paddling in their backyard pools. So on a surfboard or a surf life-saving board, actually doing some sets of paddling on a board. Can you comment in the chat box if anyone does any board paddling? It might be on a surfboard or a clubby board, if anybody does that already. Now, this is really good because it actually helps to strengthen up your back muscles a little bit more than what standard swimming does. As you can see in my little stick figure there, lifting the chest up and getting those back extensors working is really good. And paddling a board is actually less risk on your shoulders than the tethered swimming is. So a really good alternative. Obviously, you can do board paddling at the beach or in open water as well. It doesn't have to be in backyard pool, and it looks like from the chat box, a few people have tried that already. And then, of course, open water swimming. And I saw people already saying they're doing some open water swimming. Can you guys comment if you're wearing a wetsuit in the water or if you're just in Speedos still, so I can get an idea of who's starting to get cold? Robin's in the wetsuit. Speedos. Yeah, so all those tough pool swimmers definitely still in Speedos. Okay, bit of a mixed bag there. I think the thing with a wetsuit, definitely, if you have a long sleeve wetsuit or a steamer, sometimes that is, more load on turning the shoulders over as well. So just be aware that you might get increased shoulder fatigue if you're wearing a long arm wetsuit that can be a little bit heavy on the shoulders. Depends on the wetsuit that you've got on. Triathletes that are in the house tonight, I know your wetsuits help with buoyancy a little bit. So they are made out of different material to surfing wetsuits, and the triathlon wetsuits can sometimes actually help to float you up on the water a little bit more. But if you guys are swimming in a surfing wetsuit, they don't do that as much, and they're the ones that can make it maybe a little bit harder on your shoulders. So just be aware of that. You might have to cut down the distance on your session. Now, hands up if you've still been doing gym work at home. Give me, yep, cool. I'm getting some emojis and some thumbs up. Yeah, and some comments. Good. So most people are still maintaining a little bit. This is really important. I think it's a little bit different to the shoulder exercises we talked about. We want you to keep doing the light shoulder loading with the exercise bands most days of the week, because that's when you normally train. But with your gym programs, really they only need to be 1 to 3 times a week, because that's what you would normally do when training is normal. In terms of swimming strength benchmarks, the big one, guys, really is the chin-ups or the pull-ups, okay? So this is the most important exercise. I think we can probably see a picture of Kate Campbell in the corner there doing a chin-up with lots of weight hanging off her. And I think she's been sharing some good stuff on her Instagram of her doing some chin-ups while she hasn't been able to access the pool. But there's many research papers that show that the more chin-ups you can do and the stronger you are on chin-ups, then that transfers to your swimming speed really nicely. So that's a really important one to do. Now, the other exercises are really to keep your shoulders well balanced. So we like to train people to work up towards doing handstands as well. And you can do that as walking your feet up the wall to start with if you're not very good at handstands. And of course, push-ups, and then these inverted pull-ups that you can see in the diagram. So if you're able to do these 4 body weight exercises for your upper body strength, then this would keep us happy in the physio department, because we know you're covering all bases. But really, I want people to really try and go out of their way to try to do the chin-ups. So you need to try to get a chin-up bar somewhere. And we are a big fan of the bars that you can actually hang over your door if you don't have access to a standard chin-up bar. And I think I've got a picture of one of those later in the presentation. So before we go on, can everyone just comment chin-ups if they've been hitting the chin-ups while they've been out of the water? Come on, Robin. Robin's been doing chin-ups. Nah, she's shaking her head. Nah. Casey, how many chin-ups can you do, mate? Robin's been on the push-ups, yeah. Jono's up to 11. Those of you guys that were in the program last year, you would remember us testing the chin-ups too, I think. Taj has been doing push-ups, yeah. Good. Casey hasn't done any recently. Yeah, so lots of push-ups, guys, and push-ups are great, but if you can, I really want you to try to find a solution to do the chin-ups. That's really important. Awesome. Now, one of the other resources that I'm going to send out is this one, which is our functional movement competencies. And we're actually going to go through this in another presentation. I think it's is it next week, Robin? Next Thursday? Sorry, Robin, can we unmute you so I can hear you say that?
Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
When was that, sorry?
Sorry, next Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
Next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. So during that session, guys, we're going to go through some of these movements and test your ability to do this at an elite level, which you can see in the right-hand column there. So if you want, you can have a little bit of a practice of some of these before next Wednesday and just brush up on things a little bit. We can see there we've got overhead squats, single leg pistol squats, streamline RDLs, so that's tipping over into our dive position in streamline there. Single leg bridges with our foot on a box, streamline freestyle kick on our front, and that's for 4 rounds of 30 seconds. Planking with opposite arm and leg lifts for 20 reps. Single leg side bridging, and that's 10 lifts on the top leg. 3 sit-ups with your hands behind your head and your elbows back. Backstroke kicking for 4 rounds of 30 seconds with 10 seconds rest. Push-ups with 1 foot off the floor for 15 reps. And shoulder blade push-ups for 15 reps. So again, I'm going to get Robin to send these slides out to you guys tomorrow or tonight maybe, or maybe Monday. But you guys will have a chance to practice these before next Wednesday when one of my physios, Laura, is going to help us with doing this testing. Going backwards. Okay. So let's move on and talk a little bit about mobility. tech is working. So one of the things we want to make sure we can do is maintain all of the flexibilities required. And a lot of people have said that flexibility is a weak area for them. So I'm not sure if any of you have ever taken a photo of yourself holding a streamlined position like this, or looked at yourself in a mirror holding a streamlined position like this. But we obviously want to look like this guy on the left, where I've got this yellow line that goes through his wrist, his elbow, his shoulder, his hips, his knees, and his ankles. So here's a complete vertical line, and that's going to have the least amount of drag in the water. If you look at all the other swimmers in this photo, none of them can quite do that as perfectly as this guy on the left. Definitely this first guy has a big arch in his back. Probably the next two are a bit better. If we look at the guy with the green shorts on, you can see his hands are way forward from the vertical line, and that's going to create drag. And the same with the girl most to the right. Her hands are forward, and also her head is way forward from that line. So this is the first part of flexibility that's really important for us to maintain. So we need to have that straight line. We don't want to be tipping through the hips, so that we can just glide through the water really quickly. And a lot of sitting around watching Netflix and gaming is not going to help us with this. So one test that you can do to make sure you're maintaining this ability, and I think a lot of you have probably done this one before, is just lying on the floor in streamlined position, and without lifting your head off the floor, you have to be able to lift your arms up past your head, okay? And if you can't get them past your head, then we know that we really need to work on some shoulder flexibility to be able to still hold streamlined position. So some of the exercises that we'll give you is lying on your back and slowly lowering a weight overhead, like we can see on the top left. Lying on your tummy and lifting a broomstick or a dowel up overhead. Or using a chair with your elbows to try to stretch your arms up past your ears. So they're three really easy ones that you can do to try to maintain that streamlined position and make sure that you can lift your arms up past your head. We're going to do this test in next week's presentation. The next one is what I call the chicken wing test, and everybody can test this one where they're sitting right now. Basically, we want to look like the girl on the right, where you can get your arms to touch your ears. So can everyone try that for me right now? Oh, by the way, at the front, your thumbs have to be touching your armpits the whole time. So keep your thumbs touching your armpits and see if you can get your arms to touch your ears. And comment chicken wing in the chat box if you can actually get that all the way up. I'm seeing some pretty weird looking chickens in the videos at the moment. So normally, if you can't get these ones right up, it can indicate that you're a little bit tight underneath your arm and sometimes on the top of your shoulder as well. And this is a really important one to get into your catching position on the water. These kind of positions that we can see Michael Phelps in here. So these are the kind of exercises that we would start off with. Really easy stuff. Obviously, upright rows like this with some little hand weights can really help you to get those elbows up nice and high towards your ears. And stretching on the wall or using a foam roller or a trigger ball underneath your armpit where you can get really tight from sitting around too much. Nice, easy ones to practice between now and next Wednesday when we actually test you guys on this. The next one is thoracic rotation. Now, this is really important for backstrokers and freestylers so that you can get into positions like this. Now, if you're a backstroker, just give us a shout out in the chat box. Backstrokers in the house. Tell me in the chat box, is backstroke the best stroke in the world to do? Anyone? Mia, representing the backstrokers. Thank you, Mia. Anybody else? Mia's the only backstroker in the house tonight. Yeah, now we've got, I was a backstroker. I love you guys. Thank you. Backstroke is the best. But we can see how important the body rotation is here. This is Ellie Cole. She only has one leg, but you can see how beautiful she can rotate her shoulders. Her top shoulder is completely out of the water. She's been able to really turn her body all the way over and keep that bottom arm nice and deep in the water. You can see how good a catch position she's getting on her left arm. So that's why the ability to rotate is super important for your backstroke catch. So we like people to be able to lie on their side and open that arm all the way up to the floor. So again, I won't get you to jump down on the floor right now because I can see some of you don't have that kind of space available, but this is what we're going to practice next week. So when you do jump on the line next week, I need you to have some space in the room because some of the testing you're going to have to do is going to be on the floor. Now, if you're no good at rotation, these are some of the exercises that we'll give you, and I'll get Robin to send these out to you as well. Now, here's a nice easy one. So everybody should be able to point their toes down to a completely straight line. Now, the swimmer in this photo is actually a breaststroker. So she doesn't have a perfectly straight line, but definitely if you're not a breaststroker and if you want to swim butterfly or freestyle or backstroke, this is really important that you should just be able to sit on your ankles. Now, if you've been out of the water, you've probably lost a little bit of that nice ankle flexibility that we normally get from kicking all the time, and particularly kicking with fins on. So you might find you need to stretch your ankles out to get that back. So this is a nice easy test you can all do on yourselves to make sure you're maintaining the ankle flexibility is, can you actually sit back on your ankles and is that comfortable for you? If it's not comfortable, it's something we definitely need to work on before you get in the pool. Otherwise, you're going to be sinking when you do your kick sets when you come back. So I can see a few people trying that already. Okay, shoulder flexibility. This is an easy one. If you lie on the floor, you have to be able to get your forearm flat on the floor. We can see the girl in the picture is an Olympic level breaststroker, and you can see how her forearm is nice and horizontal back on the floor. Easy one to test yourself on, and you can just do a chest stretch on the wall if you can't get your forearms onto the floor. The same thing with internal rotation. We want to be able to tip forward about halfway, and you can test this up against a wall by putting your arm on the wall and then seeing if you can get your arm to tilt downwards. And if you can't get your arm to tilt downwards, you're definitely a little bit tight and you need to just gently stretch that out on the wall until that can tilt down halfway. Okay, these are for the breaststrokers in the house. So I know I gave the backstrokers some good support. So breaststrokers, give me a shout out, please, in the chat box. Casey's straight onto it. We're getting some thumbs down from the other strokes here too. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, a few breaststrokers around. So these are the really important ones for you guys. So breaststroke, the kick is generally more important. It's the most propulsive part of the stroke. So what we want is for you to be able to sit. If we look at the picture on the left here, we want you to be able to sit and have your heels together and turn your feet out 45 degrees. So I say that's like 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock on the rocket clock, okay? And in the second picture, we want to be able to lie on our tummy with the knees together, and we want our legs to fall out 45 degrees. So again, that's 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock on the rocket clock. So you might get someone to check that. Mum or dad can take a photo on an iPhone or something, and you can check where the angles are at. And if you're not achieving those flexibilities so that you can get into this kind of position here in your breaststroke kick, you're probably going to be pretty slow in those breaststroke kick sets when you get back in the water. So these are the kind of stretches we do. I'll send out the videos of them, but being able to sit with one knee on the ground and the foot in turnout, like we can see on the top right, or lying on your tummy with a band wrapped around your feet and actually pulling the band apart into that breaststroke kick position helps to get that rotation back. Now, the other thing we've been seeing is lots of people getting sore necks and sore backs because they're playing games too much on the computer during lockdown and not training as much. So give me a shout out if you've had a sore neck or a sore back from watching too much Netflix. I can see a few hands going up forcibly, maybe there. So actually in swimming, neck pain and back pain are actually our second most common problem compared to our shoulders, okay? And that is generally because swimmers are very slouchy people, because they're very flexible a lot of the time, and they're not so used to holding themselves up on land in good posture. So it is a really common problem in swimming, and it's something you need to be very aware of. So we can see this picture again of Michael Phelps having that really forward head position, and some of you might be able to relate to that. So if you've been watching too much Tiger King on Netflix or gaming too much, I think those are the things we need to balance out first. And it's about common sense things when it comes to posture. So if you are using a computer or gaming, you just need to set yourself up well, change positions regularly. It's not good for anyone to sit in the same position for 2-4 hours. In most cases, we try to get people up and moving at least once every hour as a bare minimum. So if you are watching telly, you're not allowed on that couch for more than an hour at a time. You've got to get up and stretch or walk or move or change positions at least once every hour. So take regular breaks to move and stretch. Monitor your screen time. One of the most embarrassing things that I get every week on my iPhone is a report of my screen time, and it seems to always go up. So I'm sure you guys all get that same weekly report of your screen time, and you need to try to cut that down. You're an athlete, and you need to make sure that you're not getting too many of these bad posture positions during the week. Broaden your entertainment horizons. Can anyone comment in the chat box if they read a book during lockdown from coronavirus? I read a few. Good stuff. Some people did. Awesome. Libby Trickett's book. Nice. Good. So lots of people reading. Good. So yeah, so don't just get stuck on screens the whole time. Read a book or go outside, go for a walk. Just do different stuff. Use the opportunity to mix it up. And do different things. You can use supports if you need them, but you shouldn't really need them. Information like this, if you are into your gaming, is really important. So making sure you've got your screen height set up properly, as well as your desk height and your chair height set up properly. So I'll send this out to you. We won't take the time going through it tonight because we'll all get too bored. But I think it's really worth, if you are into your gaming, just to take the time to set things up properly. And even if you are just doing your school lectures online or your school lessons online, just to make sure that you set up your computer and your desk properly for that. This is kind of a common set of back and hip stretches that we have to give swimmers to address their back and hip and neck problems from sitting around too much. So when I travel with the national team and we have 30 hours of travel to get to Europe, these are the common stretches we need to go through as a group to get everyone's hips to loosen up and everyone's spines to loosen up before we start training when we arrive at our destination. And I think that's very similar to what you guys are going through at the moment. You need to make sure you keep your hips loose, your spine loose, and your neck nice and free, so that when you jump in the pool, which is looking like it might be in the next week or two for some people, that we're not going to run into pain and problems and trouble. And again, if anybody follows Kate Campbell on Instagram, you'll see her doing some of these really silly neck exercises because she slouches too much. So Kate ties a rugby device to her head and strengthens her neck by pulling back against an exercise band, which is what you can see her doing here. And really, this should be able to be avoided. We shouldn't have to do this kind of thing. At the end of the day, a lot of people have been talking about these shoulder braces and things. We generally don't recommend these. Again, you shouldn't have to use these. If we're getting to a point where you're having to use a shoulder brace or have taping on your shoulders, really, we shouldn't have to get to that point in the first place. All right, we're going to talk about some alternative forms of fitness. Who's been running? Few runners. They say swimmers aren't good at running. Triathletes might disagree. Can I get comments in the chat box if you think you're a terrible runner? I'm definitely a terrible runner. I'm bad. Yeah. Yeah. Good. 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 So I think, you know, most of you guys on the line tonight are pretty young. I think you're probably okay, but sometimes we run into problems when we have swimmers that are used to swimming 7, 8, 9, 10 times a week, and they never do any running. And then something like this happens, and all of a sudden they start running 3 or 4 times a week, and their knees aren't used to it, and their ankles aren't used to it, and they start to run into those other problems. So we have to be a little bit selective sometimes with swimmers. If you're a great runner, then that's awesome. I encourage you to do it. If you're not so good at running, maybe make sure you talk to a coach, whether it's your swimming coach or a gym coach, or you can always contact us at the physio if you need a little bit more advice or guidance around how much running you should be doing, and what kind of running you should be doing if your knees and your ankles aren't really used to it. Some of us might look a little, that's what I look like when I run, is like the frog like that. Pretty ridiculous. But one good alternative actually is skipping. So one thing that we always recommend here at the clinic is doing some good intervals with a skipping rope. So if you haven't skipped in a while, it is actually a really hard cardio workout if you do it at speed. And if you extend out your intervals and you don't take much rest between the intervals, it can be really good cardio workout. And it's good conditioning for the leg muscles, but we don't run into the same problems that we get with long distance running, for example. So if you're not a great runner, or if you're running into some problems with your running, I would suggest jump rope skipping is a really good alternative. Other alternatives is spin bike, or being on a trainer, or being on a push bike. Now, one of our very best swimmers from the coast has actually fallen off his bike and hurt himself yesterday. So I would just exercise caution if you're on a push bike outside in the community. There is that little bit of risk, of course, of falling off and injuring yourself. So if you're not that great on a bike, yeah, that was Shay. If you're not that great on a bike, get on a trainer or get on a spin bike. And obviously the risks are a little bit lower there. But again, really good cardio fitness. Again, if you're not a great runner, then the bike offers a low impact alternative where it's not going to bash your knees up and bash your ankles up. Okay. Rowing machine, I think some people really love it. I'm not a massive fan, and the reason why is because some people can kind of hurt their back on it. If you don't have really good posture on the rowing machine and you don't have the core strength to be able to hold your back in a good position, sometimes it can hurt your back. So just be really careful with the rowing machine. Again, if you want some advice, you can talk to me or your swimming coach about it. But generally with swimmers, our preference is to go to skipping or spin bike, or the running if you are a good runner that can handle it. The other thing that you can see in the bottom left corner here is a ski erg. Some people like this because it gives you a little bit more upper body exercise. Again, you've got to be a little bit careful with not hurting your back. And can everyone see the picture at the bottom of the slide there? It's called a swim bench. Has anyone used a swim bench before? I'd be impressed if anyone has, because they're a bit of a rarity. Can anyone comment for me if they've used one? No, didn't think so. So we don't need to talk about that. Oh, Olivia, we've got one person who's used one before. Olivia, was that on the Central Coast? Oh, Graham has one. Okay. So Graham must have an ancient one. These are pretty good for a little bit of upper body specific cardio exercise, but it barely works, says Casey. So, okay, made it out of an ironing board. All right. Okay, it sounds maybe not like the best alternative, but these things, if they're good, you can see like the picture here, they can offer some good upper body exercise for cardio. Now, this is a resource of some good home equipment that people can get. And this is where I said I had those pictures of the chin-up bars. Probably the main important point here is that we don't really recommend the ones where you twist them and they extend out into the sides of the door frame. They're just not as stable because they can actually collapse in the door frame. We only really recommend the ones that actually hook over the top of the door frame. So you can see the pictures there under number 4 of the chin-up bars. Now, as Robin said, we can actually organise getting this equipment in for you. I know a lot of stores are actually out of stock at the moment because everybody's been buying home exercise equipment. but through the physio clinic, we have actually commercial suppliers, so we can still get our hands on some of this stuff. So if there's any bands or chin-up bars that you need, just get in contact with us and we can organise that stuff for you. And most of the time, we're actually cheaper than the stores at the shopping centre anyway. So I'll get this little document out to you guys so that you can see the kind of equipment that we can organise for you if you need it before the gyms kind of reopen again. And in terms of resources, we have this cool little video that we did with Cass, which is just a no equipment dryland session that goes for about 20 minutes. So if you actually have zero equipment or you can't afford to get any at the moment, there is some little exercise sessions that we've put together that have absolutely nothing involved other than your own body weight. So check out our YouTube page for that. And if you haven't tried it already, I'd suggest just going through that as a dryland session to get you started. This is another resource or another program that you can use to mix things up. It's the Swimming Australia resource. Most of you have probably seen this before, but it offers beginner, intermediate, and advanced dryland programs. And there's 11 exercises in it, probably take you about 15 minutes to get through. Another good, short, sharp swimming specific program for you to try. And there's a few other YouTube resources here that I've got that you can check out when Robin sends the TMAP link out. In terms of physio stuff, we are actually still open, so you can come and see us if you need to. The whole time physio practices have been open. We take extra precautions to make sure things are hygienic. You know, I pretty much dress up like this guy in the top picture during the day. So aside from looking a little bit different, it's all about the same. So you can still come in and see us if you want some individualized programming. And we are doing sessions through online as well. So we can set up a Zoom session like this. And we've certainly done some where I set up with you in your home gym or where you've got your home exercise equipment. And we can work out the exercises that you can do in your environment and with the equipment that you have. And that's been really good for some people to be able to work out what they can actually do at home. Just make sure if you do have an injury, don't stay at home. You should come in and get it sorted out like Shay did today with his sore knee. So that's really good of him. And make sure you maintain regular communication so everybody knows what's going on. That's all the slides I wanted to present. So I want to hear some questions. And if you don't have questions, you have to tell a joke. So questions first and then jokes second. If you have a question, please post it in the chat box right now. And we'll see if anybody has anything relevant. We'll bring you off mute. Yeah. Okay, so there's been a few questions coming in through the chin-up bars. We can I don't know the price of them off the top of my head, first of all, but we can certainly get them in so that you can pick them up from Tuggerah here. Casey, in your case, and for the other people that are down around Woy Woy area, it might be a bit far. So I'll do some research and see if I can find somewhere where you can order them online and get them delivered straight to your house. So stay tuned on the chin-up bar front, and I'll get Robin to post that in TMAP as well. Whether we can definitely get them here at our clinic for you, but to get some home delivery, leave that with me. Okay. So Annika, good question. Annika has asked, how many sessions of land exercises per week should we do? As I said, I want you to do, for your shoulders, I think you should be doing the same number of sessions as what you train in the pool per week. So Annika, how many swim sessions do you do per week in the water? Quickly comment for me. 4. So Annika, you need to do 4 sessions on your shoulders with the exercise bands per week, okay? And the same goes for everyone else. You need to match the number of sessions you're doing in the pool. In terms of other exercises, so your core exercises and your leg exercises, you just do what you normally do. Now, for most swimmers, that should be between 1 and 3 sessions per week, working on those other things. Robin, yep, same thing. So practiced every day is, if you swim every day normally, then yep, practice those every day. You can do, we would normally say 3 sets to fatigue. Okay, so counting the number of reps over 3 sets and just trying to build that up. Tia, good question. I actually have a really good video that I'm going to post. One of our strength and conditioning coaches from the Australian swim team posted a video. It goes for 7 minutes. That's why I didn't show it on tonight's presentation, but it's a 7-minute video that shows how to progress your chin-ups from being a band pull down to being a regular chin-up. And I knew that would be a really good one for the girls, because I know for a lot of girls, particularly young swimmers, it's really hard to build up to being able to do full body weight chin-ups. So I'm going to pass that one on to Robin to post as a YouTube link for everyone as well. Yes, next Wednesday, Zoom is going to be testing and giving you an exercise program based on the testing. Monkey bars, Emma, are excellent for chin-ups. And Jono's onto the jokes. Why can't a male elephant swim like they want? Because they always have their trunks on. Ah, I never thought about that.
Can I just jump in for a second, Brett?
Oh, yep. Have you got a joke, Robin?
No, it's not a joke. I had a question in the question box though, and it was answered. So thank you. I don't have to tell a joke. Olivia, I just thought it was just easier to quickly just say that regarding the uniforms,
yes,
we have singlets that we are providing. That's part of the levy that you are paying. So, but we're only open certain hours. We're not open full time, and the singlets need to be picked up from the office. So if you can just get mum or dad to contact me, we'll work out a time and a place to pick up the singlet. So if you don't have it for next week, that's okay. Maybe you'll get it for the week after. But good question. That goes for everyone. Everyone gets a singlet and we just need to make a time.
Awesome. Okay, final call. Any other questions or jokes? All right, Jono's joke the best just because it involves elephants.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, Rihanna, body combat is a good way to mix it up. I wouldn't suggest you do that as the only thing that you do for dryland during the week because you don't get the swimming specific exercises in it, but definitely a good one to throw in, you know, once or twice a week to mix it up and get a little bit of cardio out of that. That's fine. Cool. They do say swimmers aren't very funny people. I think you guys need to work on your jokes for next Wednesday.
Hayden's got one there.
Hayden.
About a plane. What do we want? Low flying plane noises. When do we want them? Meow. So Jono's mum Leanne has just said that for all the Woi swimmers that she'll pick up the singlets. So you just need to make sure that I've got the sizes that you need, and I'll work it out with Jonathan's mum.
Okay.
Okay, so just a little bit of a call to action just to finish up before we head off and enjoy our Friday night, which has been very enjoyable though. Thank you, Brett. So we're going to send out the slides on Team App. So there's, you know, some graphs and exercises and things like that. Next Wednesday, you need to have space. So a couple of meters by a couple of meters would probably be enough space, Brett?
Yeah, and just setting up in a space where your camera can see that floor space as well. Yeah.
So I've been using for some of the sessions that we've been doing a stool, and then you can, if you're using your laptop, you can angle it down to the ground and you can angle it back up when you're standing up. You probably need a towel, drink bottle, your academy shirt if you have one, and just comfortable clothing for that.
Yeah.
Will they need to take notes?
No, we're pre-preparing it all. So we'll actually send the exercise program out beforehand. So that will come through to you, Robin, and then you can post it on TMAP before the presentation.
Okay.
You guys, you'll have everything in front of you. You just need to bring yourself, the floor space, towel, water bottle. You will get a little bit sweaty in that session. So we will get up and moving. Yep.
And sorry, Brett, they're going to print the form out?
Yep.
Print it out before, so don't leave it to the last minute. Okay, don't go, I've got to be on this Zoom in 10 minutes, I better quickly print it out now. Like, have it done, let's say on Wednesday mornings. Probably really good to have it done on Wednesday morning, and then you're free, you're going to go to school, probably have a bit of time relaxing when you get home, and then you're ready to do it. Then there was also another video that you were going to share or give us a link to about the building up to the chin-ups.
Yeah, that'll be an awesome one.
Yeah, okay, so I'll be able to put that on TMAP as well as a YouTube link, so you'll all have access to that as well. And, you know, there's lots of information that we were given today, which is great. And it's sometimes a little bit hard to take it all on board, but I'm sure that everybody got a lot out of it. And next week, you have to make sure that you really concentrate on what we're doing, because the future sessions are going to sort of progress a bit from next week's session. Okay, so make sure everybody's on and coming along to next week's session. And then Brett, just like an admin thing, that if we could get a copy of the video of this one, because I got about 10 distress calls while it was on saying that, and the reason is, okay, the reason that a lot of people missed out on this session, type it in nice and quickly if you think you know the reason why people missed out on this session tonight.
Late.
Not because they were late. Unorganized. Well, there's one key thing, and we spoke about it at the orientation last night. It's not the wrong time. Didn't look hard enough. Where did I advertise? Where did I okay, Ava Hepburn, well done. Okay, they weren't a member of our Team App swimming group or triathlon group, but they didn't become a member. And as we said, all communications is going to go through that. So unfortunately, some of them missed out because they weren't on Team App. So well done to you guys. Big high five for getting on. And yeah, so thanks everyone for coming. But yeah, well done, Ava. Good answer. All righty. So we're probably off for the night then.
We are done. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thanks very much, Brett. Thank you very much. See you later, everyone. Might see some of you somewhere around over the weekend.
Bye.
Or maybe down at Tawoon Bay.
Some open water swimming.